This is Adventure for Life. I'm Joel. Welcome to the Grenadier Expedition Namibia Synopsis videos. Some of us got to do a four-wheeler ride out to the Himba village. And again, these were the Himba people are living like they've lived for thousands of years. Whoops! Whoops! Watch out for those bumps. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, so beginning on day 7, you see, there is the dust in the back of this car. Got up and someone gave my daughters and my Grenadier the mud award for having more mud than anybody else. Now, I don't even know exactly why ours would have had more mud, but you may remember me showing you the video of the back of our Grenadier and how much dust was in it. And I think, we're driving a lot with our windows down, and I never did feel like, oh, the dust is horrible or whatnot. Of course, we were staying far enough back, but the amount of dust that was in the back on our luggage and whatnot was astounding. One of the real highlights of the trip was our friend Flippy, who we'll talk more about later, found some cheetahs who had it was a mom and a child who had just taken down a springbok and were just starting to eat it. And for those of you that think this is gross, then you could skip it or whatever, but it was phenomenal to see. And so we spent literally an hour in our Grenadiers watching this whole action take place where the mom and the child, cheetahs, were eating the springbok, eating their kill. And again, we got there, Flippy told us we were there like 5 minutes after they took it down. And our guide told us that was truly a once in a lifetime thing for us to see, that he had never seen anything like it. And the cheetahs were trying to fight off a jackal and some birds that were trying to get their piece of what was going on. So it really was just a fantastic thing of nature to be able to see. We drove down a little bit further and pulled over and got to talk to Flippy a little bit, and I shot some video of his truck, which was just really crazy. Remember the bones, the lion bones that were in the front bumper of his truck. I mentioned that he needed some Melville and Moon seat covers in his truck, and it just really was a really cool thing to see his Toyota Land Cruiser there. Drove a little further and saw some more giraffe. Later we saw a baboon and an oryx by itself, but the baboon and the oryx were very close together. That oryx was absolutely beautiful, and the camera could never do justice to all the colors and the beauty of that animal that we got to see, and he just stood there. We popped our safari windows out, and both my daughter and I spent some time standing up in the passenger side seat with our torso and above out of the vehicle, standing and looking around out of the safari window. That was really enjoyable thing to do. My daughter did it some later when we'll get to that in a second. But anyway, that was something that was just really, really fun to do, and I thought it showed up good on the videos. Then for those of you who are Lord of the Rings fans, we came to what I call the Lonely Mountain. So it wasn't out there all by itself like the true Lonely Mountain in the movie, but it reminded me of it, and so I nicknamed it that. And then we took our lunch break at the scrub tree, if you remember. So there's this one little tree out there kind of all by itself that provided just the tiniest bit of shade. And we pulled over there and had our lunch, and that was a very enjoyable thing. Not long after that, we were climbing a kind of a rocky hill and had our first and only flat tire, and so that got changed by some of the guys in the group. And then later we climbed up another hill, and the purpose for climbing this hill was to try to spot for black rhinos. And the climb was pretty, it was a challenge. There were a couple of vehicles that didn't make it up on the first try. And so that was fun to have that little bit of quote unquote technical driving, and then to be up there at the top of everything and to be able to see for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles in 360 degrees. Somebody did spot a black rhino from up there, and so then we started driving around and getting downwind from that black rhino because they don't see that well, but they smell well, and so we got downwind of them, and we never got very close to them at all. You can see from the video that we really had to expand the video, but it was cool to be able to see it even from a distance. We had binoculars, so we were able to get a pretty good shot, and drove a little bit further and saw another really cool thing, which was rhino rock. And so this rock had been used for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. For whatever reasons, the rhinos like to go to this particular rock and scratch on it, and their hide being so tough, they rubbed it smooth. And so it literally had a mirror finish on one side, so that was really cool to see. And then we entered and exited the Palmwag concession, and that was spelled like palm wag, but it was pronounced Palmwag. And so you remember we got, there was a guard or something there to inspect us, to make sure we didn't have any wild animals in our vehicles or whatever, any kind of other contraband. And then we ended up spending the night on night 7 at the Boma Wilderness Lodge. That was a really cool place. We had dinner there. It was dark when we got there because we had spent all the time looking at the cheetahs, but had a very enjoyable dinner together. And then the next morning, I shot some video of both the camp and the Toyota Land Cruisers that they had as camp vehicles. So the next morning, day 8, we drove across Damaraland and saw the Brantberg Mountains, which are the tallest mountains in Namibia. And again, Brantberg is spelled Brandberg, B-E-R-G, Brandberg Mountains, but they pronounce it Brantberg Mountains. And they were cool to see in the distance. You couldn't necessarily tell they were the tallest mountains, but knowing that, it was cool to see them. Then we came up to another high point, which was seeing the lonely, what I call the lonely elephant. He was out there all by himself. We got up so close to him. My daughter got to stand out of the safari window and just be able to view him, not through a window, not through anything, and just have a straight on view. We were probably 40, 50 feet away from this elephant, and he was perfectly happy for us to be there, and he was eating his leaves and tree limbs and whatnot, and so that was a really cool thing to do. We probably were there for 15 or 20 minutes watching him. At that point, we did a little bit more riverbed driving, which was again pretty to me, and then we ran up on a group, a flock, I guess we'll call it, of guinea fowl, and that was not great, but it was interesting to see that group of birds there. We then did a very interesting and fun, and from a technical standpoint, from a driving Grenadier standpoint, very fun thing where we drove through this rocky riverbed slash canyon. We got to see a spot where there's some minerals that had been, that were coming out of the ground or whatever, and so there was some water there and some white and various colors of minerals that were on top of the rock, so that was a cool thing to do. We then came to the campground with what I call the Metal Animal Zoo, because somebody, kind of like the stone man of the Coca Land, somebody had made these various animals, a giraffe and a rhino and an elephant and whatnot, out of metal, out of scrap metal, and it was cool to see. And we did a rocky hill climb and descent not long after that, which was really enjoyable because it was rocky. Now, there wasn't any problem with traction or whatnot, but it was probably a several hundred foot climb and then a several hundred foot descent that we kind of did one at a time because it was a little bit of technical parts to it. And then finally, toward the end of day 8, we get back to civilization and the town of Swakopmund. Nice town. I think they said it was a German town, as I remember. It was right there on the Atlantic Ocean. It was a well-developed town, very pretty, very clean town. Of course, we're still out in the desert, but very, very nice place. Stayed at the Stilts Hotel right there on the Atlantic Ocean, and fortunately my daughter and I got the very last cabin, so we had a great view of the ocean, and it was just good to be back to, you know, maybe a little bit cooler place and to see something other than sand, although the entire trip was fantastic, and the Stilts Hotel was very fun to stay at. The next morning we had another high point to me of the trip. If you remember the Namibian traffic jam, so there was some, you know, big truck that was hauling something, and it had caught on fire on the main road, and so they had created a go-round for all the vehicles. Well, it was in the sand, and these big trucks were going really, you know, 2, 3, 4 miles an hour. There was a huge line. We weren't going to make our flights, and so Phil decided that we were going to come up with an alternative route, and we did it Namibian style. So there was the main road, which was blocked because of the burnout vehicle. There was the alternative route that had officially been built by, I guess, the police and whatnot, and the cars that were driving on that. Well, we went off to the side of that and built our own road, and it was just extremely fun way to end the trip. And then, of course, we were back to Walvis Bay International Airport, and the end of the adventure, and what an adventure it was. Thank you so much for coming along. I'm glad, thankful for the people that stayed with this video series and enjoyed it along with us. It was one of the top trips of my life, and I'll always be thankful for it, and thankful that I made the videos. Okay, next week I am going to do a review of the Grenadiers from the Namibian trip standpoint, and so look forward to seeing you next week. That was awesome.